Okay. Welcome everyone to our Black NSA bonus call, the 7-figure journey. Yes. And this is exciting for so many of us. And thank you for all of our special guests that certainly have expertise in this area. We want you to pull back some curtains. As we say with most of our NSA events, virtual or in person, we don't want the speech version or the regular folks version. We want the colleagues and peers version. So we want you to pull back those curtains and talk to us, be straight up with us, and we're excited to kind of learn even more about you in the process. So guys, I'm going to share my screen for one quick second because guess what? I did ask all these awesome folks for a bio, and I got a lot of stuff. So I had to cut it down. Otherwise, I'd spend half the call trying to read off the bio. So what I'm going to do is mastermind. If you go to the, okay, of course I don't have the window open back, girl, because I closed it, but I'm going to bring it up as I do this. And sorry if I seem a little scrambled. I got a lot of things going on in my brain here. But I'm going to go ahead. When you start talking, I'll bring up the bios, but I've already printed a short part of it. So I'm going to start with professional speaker and CSP. Yes. Newly appointed CSP, William T. Thompson. And this is the short version. You guys have access to the long version. Is the USAF Academy Association of Graduates President and CEO with a long history of support and service to the Air Force Academy. He was the first African-American from South Carolina to receive an appointment to USAFA and excelled at the Academy in several leadership positions, including serving as a member of the cadet wing staff. A decorated U.S. Air Force instructor pilot. Thank you for serving our country. He then flew for an additional 25 years with Delta Airlines, retiring as an international check captain, training and evaluating Delta's pilots. So guys, every time you fly Delta, keep that in mind. In his current position, he has taken the association to lofty heights with graduate chapter growth from 31 to 85 and asset growth. This is where the money comes in. From 35 million to 55 million over the past 5 years. He was selected as one of 2015's most innovative business leaders, the only nonprofit leader selected in this international listing. He received his Juris Doctorate degree, meaning he's a lawyer, and began practicing as a tax and finance attorney shortly after resigning from the Air Force in 1980. He's also become an award-winning entrepreneur and founder of the Summit Group companies, which own multiple fast food franchises, including Subway sandwiches, Dunkin' Donuts, love their coffee, TCBY yogurt shops, an engineering services firm, a systems integration company, and a real estate development firm. He has been recognized in numerous media outlets, including the Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Black Enterprise, NBC, CBS, PBS networks. And that's just a small segment of his bio. So we want to hear from you, Mr. William T. Talk to us about your 7-figure journey.
Well, my question, let me thank you for doing yeoman's work on not only these bonus programs, but just the whole mastermind concept. I mean, you're on it every week, and I know it takes a lot of time and effort. And thank you for all that you're doing. So, this dovetails very nicely into the last chapter that we just finished up in Think and Grow Rich, Persistence. And it began for me with a very definite purpose and a burning desire to one day be a millionaire. I was in the Air Force at the time. I'd flown a flight that afternoon. I was going back to my squadron, and I picked up a magazine that had been dropped or discarded by the side of the road. And it was a Fortune magazine, special executive compensation issue. And as I looked through that magazine, there wasn't anybody in the magazine that was making less than $300,000 at the time, and this was the late 70s. And I thought to myself, you know, I've done fairly well in terms of competition, high school, at the academy. And if I had been in the bottom 10% of this group, I'd be making about $500,000 to $600,000 a year. At the time, I was making $24,000 a year as an Air Force pilot. And Jimmy Carter was the president. They were debating whether to give the military a 3 or a 4% pay raise, and inflation was running 15, 16%. And so I saw myself just falling further behind, and knew that if I were going to be in the same income range as the people in this magazine, that I'd have to leave the Air Force and do something else. And so I had a love of flying. The airline business was attractive because you got a lot of time off and you made a pretty good base income. And so I felt that would be a good foundation for me to go out and chase my dreams of becoming a millionaire. And so that's what I did. I resigned from the Air Force. I was fortunate to be hired by Delta, and I had started going to law school at night using my VA benefits. And so it didn't cost me anything. And I put a plan together. And the plan was that by the age of 50, I wanted to have enough money working in the stock market that I would never have to work again and still make a 6-figure income each year. And so when I did the math on that, it turned out that I had to have at least about $2 million in investable assets, because at the time, the what they call the long bond back in those days, the 30-year Treasury bond, was paying about 4.8%. I rounded it off to 5, and so 5% of $2 million would give me my $100,000 a year. And so that became the goal. That became the time frame. And then I had to put a plan together to execute. Well, I realized early on that my salary just from Delta was not going to get me there, even though I would save and invest in the 401k and the other options that I had. So I realized I had to do something else on the side from an entrepreneurial standpoint. And that's what led me down the business track, so to speak. I started out as a tax and financial advisor. Most of my clients were airline pilots and doctors. And I had a group of doctors, friends and clients, who took my advice to buy real estate, Joel's business. And they came in, they were going to buy a small shopping center. They wanted me to negotiate the deal for them, which I agreed to do and take my compensation on the back end. And I also ended up investing in the deal with them. And because they were practicing medicine, they asked me to be the managing partner, which I agreed to do. And so I ended up altogether from those 3 different sources with about 30% of the deal. We flipped it in about 18 months, made $2 million on it, and I had 30% of $2 million cash, which then allowed me to go off and start doing other things. Fast food, buying some small businesses, and I was able to meet my goal. So that's kind of how I started, and we can get into more details with the Q&A, but I wanted to keep it relatively short.
Wow. Hopefully, guys, you're coming up with questions in the chat room. What do you want T to answer for you? So write those questions down before you forget them. So inspiring. It really, I love this. This is why we call it the 7-figure journey. Guys, we just getting started. So if you're pumped, I'm excited. Thank you for that, T. All right, you're up next, Mr. Joel Block. Let me tell folks who you are. And let me just bring up my Evernote document here. Okay, here we go. Joel Block, also professional speaker and CSP, member of the NSA $1 Million Roundtable. Joel is a professional member of NSA, where he hosts, well, we already said all that. I kind of got ahead of myself. And though he doesn't admit it often, Joel is also a CPA. He's a professional investor who has been a principal in over 30 syndicated real estate or entrepreneurial transactions, in addition to advising on dozens more. Joel is the CEO of the Bullseye Capital Fund and the founder of the National Association of Syndicators. Joel is a real-world 25-plus-year veteran of the venture capital, private equity, and hedge fund world, who addresses the audiences from Silicon Valley venture firms to Wall Street bankers on matters of capital formation and most recently on investment crowdfunding. Twice each year, Joel hosts and headlines real estate syndication and hedge fund symposium programs. This is where the speaker part comes out, guys, educating and advising CPAs, attorneys, investment bankers, asset class specialists on organizing and running investment pools. His work has appeared in the LA Times, Wall Street Journal, Forbes Small Business, Entrepreneur Magazine, Investors Business Daily, and the Los Angeles Business Journal. And remember, this is just a portion of his bio. I'm going to put that link in there once Joel starts talking. Joel, you are on. Talk to us about your 7-figure journey.
Well, you know, it's always hard to follow your bio. Yeah. Makes you sound so awesome. God, it's embarrassing. Anyway, listen, thanks. Hey, T, really cool to hear you. And by the way, the magic word that you said, the most important word that T said in the whole deal is the word assets. Most people in our country are not really oriented to accumulating assets. They're used to income. Income is what comes in every day, but assets are the things that you own. And most people just really don't do a great job of accumulating assets. So, you know, T said his most successful deal was putting together a group of people to buy real estate. That is my full-time business. That's what I do. I run a hedge fund. Investors give me their money and I go out and buy real estate with it. And then a couple of times a year, I teach other people how to be in the same business that I'm in. It's a very cool business. And actually, one of the things I try to get speakers to do, not teach them what business I'm in, but to be in the seminar side, because the seminar side is an enormously more profitable business than the keynote side. So I want to share something interesting with you guys. First, I'm a member of the $1 Million Speaker Group. And the $1 Million Speaker Group, last summer, there were 55 of us in the room, a very impressive group of people, as you can imagine. And of those people, these are people that make $1 million a year from speaking, not from all sorts of other things. Like my fund is separate from speaking. So my seminar and consulting related services are all fall into that category. But one of the things that's most fascinating is that 55 people, only five were speakers. Only 5 people were speakers. Now, they're all members of NSA, so we all speak. But, you know, it kind of begs this philosophical question that I ask, which is, do you make your money from speaking or because of it? And you really got to think, is it from speaking or because of it? Now, if you're a keynoter, you make your money from speaking. Very, very few people make very much money that way. Some people make a couple $100,000. There's a tiny number of people that make $1 million that maybe they do 50 speeches at 20 grand a year. Very, very few people. The other alternative is making your money because of speaking. So we have these great skills, and being able to stand in front of an audience of people and explain things to people and get them to buy consulting or get them to do whatever else we want them to do. That's a whole other fantastic way of using speaking. So that's how I do it. So I've got a speaking business, and here's what is most interesting. You know, you have to get a really good business model, and we don't have time to talk about that. And you got to get some revenue streams, and then you got to get an action plan. So you got to kind of have like a flow. There's got to be some stuff that you get. If you really want to make it work, there's some things that you have to put in place. But, and Marquesa or some other people can help you with that or whatever. But, because she knows how I think about these kinds of things. But I want to just give you an example. Years ago, I was doing telephone seminars and webinars. I was really trying hard to get into the speaker business. And I was really struggling. I connected with a bunch of speaker bureaus. Nobody was giving me any business. In 3 years, the total revenue from professional speaking was $0. So one day I got a phone call from an executive at one of the big real estate firms, the biggest commercial real estate firm in the country. And the guy said, hey, listen, we found you on the internet. Can we bring you to Florida to do a conference for us on how to raise money to buy real estate? And I thought, this is my lucky break. This is the big break I've been waiting for. Now, I could have said, I want a keynote fee of $10,000 or $20,000, but that's not what I did. I didn't like the business model of being a keynote speaker. I still don't like it. In fact, I like it less than I liked it back then. I didn't like it back then very much. So what I said was, yeah, you know, that'd be fine. You can pay me some money, but here's what we're going to do. I've got this seminar. I just made it up on the spot. I have this seminar that I do called How to Raise Money to Buy Real Estate. and you guys can buy some tickets to it. Wouldn't that be a great idea? And the guy goes, yeah, we're happy. We'll buy as many tickets as you want. So we work it out. The guy wires me a bunch of money. He sets up the hotel. He paid for the hotel and all this stuff. And I start working on this seminar that I invented out of thin air. And so, but understand what happened was, instead of taking a keynote fee, which is a one-time come in, get the money and leave, I created a seminar where I owned the gate. And they bought some tickets. I sold some tickets. So we had almost an unlimited amount of dollars could come in, way more than you'd make from a keynote. And then I owned it. So anything that got sold during the middle of that program belonged to me. That's what structure is. So one way it would have been keynote, the other way it's own the gate. And I just on the fly said, I want to own the thing, and I'm going to own it, and you're going to send me the money. We're going to call it seminar, and we're not going to call it keynote. So I've tried to get a number of speakers to kind of think in a new way about these things, because I think most speakers leave most of the money on the table. And let me promise you, you're not getting on that $1 million journey leaving most of the money on the table. It's hard enough when you scoop up all the money that's available to you, let alone when you walk over it like you don't notice it, because that's pretty much what's happening. You're not noticing most of the money that's available to you. So those are really my comments. There's a lot to learn. Listen, I've been in the venture business for a long time. I've invested in dozens and many dozens of companies actually, and I also participate, like T said, in the upside with my investors, and that's a specialty business that I've been in for a long time. But for speakers in particular, don't necessarily buy into the playbook that says be a keynote speaker. That isn't the best way to do it. There are better ways to do it. That doesn't mean, listen, I'd like to do a couple keynotes because I'm not a keynote speaker. I'd like to just try it, do it a few times, get paid a good sum. That'd be awesome. But for business purposes, it's not a great business to jump from gig to gig to gig. And that's why I wrote the book called Stop Hustling Gigs and Start Building a Business, because gigs are really not a business. I mean, they're just not a great business. So that's it. That's what I want to say. And if anybody's got any questions, I will do what I can to answer them.
Marquessa, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you for letting me know. I'm just going and rapping.
I thought it was me. I was looking at my computer and thinking, oh, no.
I was wondering why Joel was looking like that. I was saying, Joel, thank you for that. I wanted you here because, we've hung out a lot at NSA events, and you've become a really good friend of mine. And he has such great advice for how we can work smarter, not harder. Guys, he wrote a book that he's given to all NSAers for free. It's in the chat room. You're going to text GIG to the number 72,000, and you're going to get Joel's book. So Joel's going to, again, like T, going to ask questions at the end. Now I want to move to our third speaker, another one of our wonderful mastermind members. And I wanted to hear from this person, lovely, brilliant woman, for a very long time. And I thought this was a great opportunity to do it. So I am going to pull up her bio right here and tell you a little bit about Marquita Miller. Marquita Miller is an author, speaker, accountant, and entrepreneur, 5-star tax and business solutions. She is the president and CEO of 5-Star Tax and Business Solutions, founded in 2000 as a part-time home-based business. The company has since evolved into a full-service accounting and business consultation firm, which provides accounting services, business startup, entity formation, payroll processing, revenue strategies, and so many other things. And she does this for small and medium-sized businesses. She also consults countless entrepreneurs on business formation and action-based coaching, and provides accounting services to them as well. Marquita's strategies gain well-deserved national attention as one of her debt cancellation plans helped a ministry to retire $29.5 million of debt during a time of recession. Miller has helped a host of churches to increase revenue and retire debt. Featured on both TBN and Impact Network, Miller has also selected to lead several workshops for critically acclaimed pastors Dr. Bill Winston and Bishop T.D. Jakes. Y'all all know who Bishop T.D. Jakes is. All right, Marquita, come on here and share with us your 7-figure journey, or what you'd like us to
Okay.
do.
Well, one of the things that I think is important to think about is you have to know the numbers. And I had the privilege of hearing William T. and Joel at the winter conference, and they were phenomenal. And they both talked about plan. In order to know all of us typically are going to have a plan, but you've got to know the math. You've got to know the number. And like, Joel talked about assets. As business owners, sometimes or speakers, let me say this, as speakers, sometimes I don't know if the light bulb goes on that we truly are business owners. And there's a business side to this business, and you have to treat it as such. Many times we can be professional speakers and think when we get paid, that means that those dollars go in our pocket. But there's so much more to it, because we really truly have to understand that this is a business. It's not a hustle. It's not just a gig. Joel said that. So we have to understand that, number one, we need to have a legal entity structure. We've got to have systems in place so that we're recording and capturing dollars. We've got to have a budget. No one wants to ever talk about the B word, but we got to have a budget, because every dollar that's coming in, if it's going back out, then you really don't have a business model, because we have to plan for the peaks and the valleys. And so one of the things with me starting 5-Star Tax and Business Solutions, because I am an accountant by trade, it was very easy for me to understand that I know I had to put systems in place so that I could understand how much I'm making, what it's costing me, what does it make sense to keep doing. And Joel, he said something that was phenomenal, and I loved it at the winter conference and repeated today, about owning the game. In anything you do, if you're owning the game, meaning hosting your own live event, you've got to be able to understand how much money am I making for that. And then even from, whatever it is, if it's keynotes, if it's book products, all of the various ways that you can make money, you've got to be able to have a system so that you can account for what is coming in the door from that. And then you've got to be able to say, what is it costing you? You'll never know. Joel has kind of guided us to say, hey, you may be leaving money on the table, it may be costing you a bunch to do keynotes. You'll never know that if you're not counting the cost to determine what does it cost you to do a keynote. And not just the time for you to deliver it, it's a whole lot of other time involved in it from that standpoint. And so it's very important. The accounting component side is extremely important in the business, because a lot of people don't typically go out of business because they don't have the passion, especially not NSAers. They've got the passion, they've got the fire, they've got the plan, but you have to understand the numbers, and you've got to have a system of keeping track of things, and you've got to follow regulations, because even though we're NSAers, the law still applies. So you've got to be filing tax returns. You have got to understand, what do you need to file? And so, Joel talked about assets. Well, you won't even know what your assets are if you don't have a balance sheet. So those are the kind of things that I do in my company. I have the privilege every day of studying with business owners to help them understand their where they're at financially, help them create a plan, align their plan. Most of the time you come in with a plan, but how does your plan translate to dollars on paper to help you to see, am I on track? Am I off track? And then to make sure in all the things you're doing, even in the live seminars and owning the game, if you go to a city, do you need to be registered to sell product there? Do you have to have a sales tax ID number? There truly is a business side of this business, and we have to put that hat on so that we don't lose the assets and the income that we're making because of what we don't know.
I love it, Marquita. You're speaking about that stuff that just hurts my ears. I love it. So I can't wait till, we get to the Q&A so we can really dive into that. Guys, give us some questions. I only see one question coming in, and we're going to jump right into it because I want to use all of our time, but this is so exciting. I love talking about money. Sylvia Henderson asked, I'm listening to your bios, all of you. It consistently seems that seeking clients who are startups, early stage, Joel in the VC angel investor world, and solo entrepreneurs will never bring us to a 7-figure income or even 6 figures. Yet these are the people who most need us. How do we continue serving the clients who most need us, yet still build a sustainable 6- and 7-figure business? Who wants to take that question?
Joe.
All right. So I think that it's astute to notice that the people who need us most least have the money to afford what it is that we do. And there's a secret to this. You have to give people the money to buy your services. And that's a secret. I mean, that's a hard thing to do, by the way, but you know, I help companies raise money, and I help them think about how much money they need. You know, Marquita, you must be an accountant, right? That's what you said, that I think it's your bio.
Yes.
Because your thing, you know, it was very numbers driven, and so you have to know how much money you're going to need to run your business. And if you need some money, and I'm not talking about speakers and service businesses, typically other kinds of entrepreneurs, maybe they need to raise a little money. Maybe they need to do some crowdfunding. Maybe they need to organize themselves, you know, in a different way. And if you can help them notice that, and then they go raise some money, maybe they can get a loan. There's a lot of places. One of the great places, prosper.com, makes crowdfunded loans, which is a great service. And maybe if they raise, you know, $25,000, maybe they use some for their business and some for consulting, and maybe they can spread it out a little bit. But I think you have to really help people be smart about what their numbers are and about what it is that they need. And once you do that, then you can help them to, you know, go get what it is that they need, and you can be part of that budget.
Great.
That's good. Yeah, I'd like to chime in on that. Certainly working with sometimes having a lot of startups that want to come in. One thing that Joel said is you're helping them, but you're not enabling them. You can't change your price based upon someone else's financial situation. But what you absolutely can do is ensure that the value that you bring in what they're going to do business with you. So like on consulting, I don't ever make the guarantee, but I'll tell you, if we're consulting together, if your goal is a revenue goal, my goal is going to be to help you to reach that. So therefore, I'm really working hard to make sure that you're successful, because when you're successful, I'm successful, I can keep getting paid. So I think that you have to be very confident of what you're going to deliver. Don't over deliver, don't over promise, but definitely under promise, over deliver of what you say you're going to do. When people hear and they see and experience that what you said you would do to help them, you do that, they will figure it out. And guess what? Also, people will find the money. They absolutely will find the money. I promise you, because I've heard someone say before, people will pay for what they want and beg for what they need.
Hello.
And so you cannot get involved in the fact of where their situation is, and you have to put it out there. Now, there is an opportunity that we were talking about this in another group just a moment ago, where you can look to see, is there a way that you have an opportunity to create something that will allow a group of people that maybe if they can only afford a consulting fee of $97 an hour, you can have a group of them to come together, so you maximize your time, not compensating your time, but you allow them access, but they still had to come to the door. But I really very seldomly believe in, I don't have even a free consultation. Anybody who meets with me is going to pay a fee, because if you don't pay that fee, you're not going to ever be able to afford anything else. So that's a qualifier for us to get going, really. So it's important for you not to lead people. You want to be fishing in the right pond. And so, and people, I tell you, they'll find the money. They will find the money.
You know, some Marquita, that's so interesting. One of the things that I like to say is that, you know, money is about priorities. People will find the money. There are a lot of broke people who manage to make bail and get themselves out of jail, totally, completely broke, and they get out of jail. They have the money. It just, you just have to be delivering something that matters to them. And if they're not finding the money, it's not because of them, it's because of you. It's because you have not made yourself necessary in their life. And, you know, you're looking, if you believe it's them, you're looking in the wrong direction, because broke people make bail. It matters to them. They find the money, they do it. And so you just have to make them want you that bad.
Ditto.
Good, good. Guys, what are your questions? I see Anna, Carol, Chris, Junior, Robin, and the list goes on. All of y'all are there. Tony, Sylvia. Sylvia asked the question. All of you, please put your questions in there. Otherwise,
Marquisa, if there's no questions, it doesn't matter. We all three got to get off the phone and go make some money. It's not a big deal.
So true. One thing I want to throw in here, one thing I love about the professional speaking industry, we have a zillion business models. We really do. Now, I would be curious to know, and this may be too big of a question. Inquiring minds want to know, what do you think are the business models that yield the biggest results? There's a gob of them. I want to quickly bring y'all's attention to the chat room. I interviewed 4 people for Speaker Magazine: Roxanne Emmerich, Marjorie Brody, Barbara Glantz, and Lisa Ford, all millionaires within NSA. All right. And they all have different business models than T and Joel and Marquita. So it's different ways to do it. But Joel, with you being in the $1 Million Group and you're hanging around all these speakers, what do you think are the main business models? And then
Well,
I'd be curious to know, what are the business
just
models
in general
for the 5 people? Yeah, what are those
okay
business models you're seeing happening?
So you got keynote speakers, you got sell from the stage, you got just promotional speaking, just using your skills to make money in some other way, and own the gate. Those are 4 that come to mind.